Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at someone else's life and felt like yours wasn't enough? Their job, their success, their relationship, their confidence. And suddenly, without even realizing it, you started measuring yourself against them. And you came up short. If you have ever felt this way, you are not alone. But today, I want to tell you something that might change the way you see yourself forever. There was once a boy named Amir. Amir grew up in a small town with his best friend, Kabir. They went to the same school, sat in the same classroom, grew up on the same street. But from a very young age, Kabir seemed to do everything faster. He walked before Amir. He read before Amir. He made friends more easily. And as they grew older, the comparisons grew louder. Kabir got into a top university. Amir got into a smaller one. Kabir landed a great job at 22. Amir was still figuring things out at 25. Kabir got married, bought a house, built a life that looked from the outside like everything was perfectly on schedule. And Amir? Amir was still searching, still trying, still wondering why his life looked so different. Every time he saw Kabir, he felt the same quiet ache in his chest. Am I behind? Am I failing? Is something wrong with me? One evening, Amir visited his grandfather, a quiet old man who had lived a long and simple life. Amir sat down, and without even meaning to, he told his grandfather everything, about Kabir, about the job, about feeling left behind. His grandfather listened without interrupting, and when Amir finished, the old man stood up slowly and walked to the window. Outside in the garden, two plants grew side by side. One was tall and flowering. The other was small, still budding. The grandfather pointed to them. "Do you see those two plants?" he said quietly. Amir nodded. "I planted them on the same day. Same soil, same water, same sunlight." He paused. "But they are not the same plant." He turned to look at Amir. "One flowers in spring, one flowers in summer. Neither one is wrong, neither one is late. They are simply different." Amir was quiet for a long time. "But how do I stop comparing?" he finally asked. His grandfather smiled. "You stop comparing when you realize you were never in the same race. Here is what psychology tells us about comparison. When we compare ourselves to others, we almost never compare fairly. We compare our insides to their outsides. We compare our struggles to their highlights. We compare our chapter 3 to their chapter 10. And the result is always the same. We feel smaller than we actually are. Psychologist Leon Festinger called this social comparison theory. He found that humans have a natural drive to evaluate themselves, and we almost always do it by looking at others. But here is the problem. The people you are comparing yourself to, they are also comparing themselves to someone else. Everyone is looking sideways. Nobody is looking at their own path. And when nobody is looking at their own path, nobody is actually moving forward. There is a story about two seeds planted in the ground. The first seed immediately pushed upward, broke through the soil, and reached for the sun. The second seed took longer. It sent its roots deeper first. It built a foundation beneath the surface that nobody could see. From the outside, the first seed looked like the winner. But when the storms came, the second seed stood firm. Because the time it spent going deeper was not wasted time. It was preparation time. Your season of struggle is not a sign that you are behind. It is a sign that you are building roots. Amir eventually found his path. Not at 22, not at 25, but when he did, it was entirely his own. A business he built with his own hands, a life shaped by his own values, a happiness that did not depend on anyone else's timeline. And years later, when he looked back, he was grateful for the waiting. Not because the waiting was easy, but because the waiting made him ready. So the next time you catch yourself comparing, pause and ask yourself one question. Whose race am I running? Because if the answer is anyone's name but your own, you have already lost. Not because you are behind, but because you are on the wrong track entirely. Your life has a timing that belongs only to you. Your path has a shape that no one else can walk. And the moment you stop measuring your journey against someone else's is the moment your real journey begins. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Don't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Don't compare your timeline to anyone else's, because you are not them, and that is not a weakness. That is your greatest strength. If this story spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And remember, the only person you should ever compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday.